Hello, students of class 10. Today we will discuss the first chapter of the book Democratic Politics and its first chapter, the power sharing. What is power? Power is an ability to influence or to regulate the others. And we talked about the power in political terms, it is related with the state. Earlier in the monarchical system, the power was centralized in one man's hand. With the growth of time, with the rise of democracy, people started talking about the division of powers among different organs, levels, regions, people, language, social groups, etc. Here is the case of two nations. One is the European and another is the South Asian nation. European nation, the Belgium. Belgium is a small European country whose population is around 1 crore, is surrounded by uh, Germany, Luxembourg, France, and Netherlands. Actually, its ethnic composition is very complex. Why? Because if we look towards the map of Belgium at the national level, the northern region is called Wallonian region, whereas southern region called Flemish region. And in the Wallonian region, the Dutch-speaking people they composed majority of the population, around 59%. Whereas in the Flemish region, were the French-speaking people, they comprised of 40% population. Whereas the unique case is its capital population composition. The capital city Brussels having the population in which 80% were French speaking people, whereas the 20% the Dutch speaking people. And in fact, the French speaking people who were in minority at the national level were developed one, economically they're very rich, whereas the Dutch speaking people were relatively uh, not so developed and wealthy one. So there was a feeling of resentment against these French speaking minority people, and that is why the violence or the tension developed in Europe, in Belgium, in 1950s or 60s. Now take up the case of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is an island country which is just few kilometers away from India. Uh, it mainly composed of two population. One is the uh, Sinhalas people who around composed their population is around 74% of the total population. If you look at the map of uh, Sri Lanka, you will find that the another population which comprise 13% are the Tamils. 18%, in fact 18% population are Tamils. They are living in north and east region, in fact. And this population, this country able to get independence in 1948. Since they were in majority, so by virtue of their majority they able to form the government and democratically elected government of this country, uh, able to imposed majoritarian policy upon the minorities. The majority were the Sinhala speaking people, whereas the Tamils were in minority. They were just of 18%. 13% were the Sri Lankan Tamils, and the 5% were the Indian Tamils who migrated over there. Now, this what were the features of that majoritarian policy? Here we will discuss about the three features. The first, the actually in 1956, by an act, uh, the Sinhala became the official language of the nation by disregarding the interest of Tamils. Second, the government favored the Sinhalas through the preferential policy by giving them favor in uh, university position, the government jobs, etc. And third, by new constitution, they decided to promote the state shall to promote or to foster the Buddhist religion. So here, and we know most of the Tamils were either Hindus or Muslims. So now, what is the outcome of this majoritarian policy? Actually, uh, gradually, the people, Tamil people, they develop the feeling of alienation from the power, from the rule in Sri Lanka. They felt that their constitution is not favoring them. They are discriminating them not only in the jobs but in the other position as well as politically, socially, economically. So these people, uh, now what were their demands? Actually, these people, they started organizing themselves, uh, forming political parties. Some of them started even the struggle, and one party that entered into the militant or the guerrilla technique to achieve their goal. Now, what were their goals or demands? Actually, they want to recognize Tamil language an official language besides Sinhala's language. Second, they wanted regional autonomy, and they also wanted preferences in jobs as well as in educations. Even some of the organizations, they talked about the separate Tamil state that was called Tamil Ilam. Few organizations like Litte, which was a militant organization, they waged a war against the state that is called civil war, and the state entered into the turmoil. Now, there is a model. If we talked about power sharing, the chapter is power sharing. Now, what was the outcome? In case of Belgium, the Belgium adopted the accommodative policy, and this policy helped the country to bring themselves on the path of peace and progress. Now, what are the features of that model, Belgian model? Now, both the party, French and Dutch speaking people, they agreed to represent themselves equally at the national level despite of differences over their population. Similarly, uh, many powers of the central government given to the states. It means the states were no more subordinate to the center. Third, at the Brussels, despite of being majority by the French, the both community agreed to have equal number of representation in the central government, in the capital city government. So this model was an accommodative model. So it suggests that if you believe in accommodation, the country will be on the path of peace, progress, growth, and another government they formed. The fourth one is the community government. This government was formed irrespective of the place where they are living, and this community government has to take care of cultural, educational, and language related issues. So, the Belgian model, we have four features. One, equal number of ministers in the central government, equal number of ministers in the capital city government, states were not subordinate to the central government, and fourth, the community government. So, this way they chosen the path to share the power, and we know this is a very important. Brussels became an important place, and even European Union had their headquarters at this place. Thank you. Now, why power sharing is desirable? There are two reasons. One is the prudential, another is the moral reason. What is prudential reason? Prudential means calculative. Uh, One has to be very calculative that if uh, power is not shared, it will definitely a detrimental. For example, we know this power sharing, it reduces the possibility of conflict between different social groups. Actually, it's a good way to ensure the stability of political order. If we try to impose one will, the majority will over the minority, it may, for the time being, it may help the majority, but in long run, it will undermine the authority of the and unity of the nation. So, uh, it should be prudential to share the power. Now, why the power? What is the moral reason for the power sharing? Actually, power sharing is the very spirit. Moral means the values, the very spirit of democracy. We know in democracy, power are shared among those who are the ruler as well as the ruled. Means the citizens, they have to right to participate in the election to elect the government. Then the government get formed, and through their representatives, they are able to take participate in the decision making. So if we talked about prudential reason, it is very important because this results better outcomes. And if we talked about moral reason, it is very valuable. Now come to the next and the last topic, that forms of power sharing. Here we will discuss four forms of power sharing. The first one is the power shared among different uh, organs of the government. If we look towards, we know there are three organs of the government: the legislative, executive, and judiciary. They are at the same level. It means they have equal powers, and these act as a check and balance upon each other. They try to uh, restrain or sometimes complement even each other. So the power must be shared at different organs. It will be healthy for democracy or the society. Now, power shared among the different levels. Now see the level. That was the horizontal division of power. This is the vertical division of power. Different levels: union government, state government, or the local government. So this is the level, and this type of division of power is called federal form of power sharing. For example, in India, we have the central government, state government, and local government in the form of municipalities and panchayats. And this is very important. Why? Because uh, it was used in Belgium. That is why this country is on the path of peace and progress. Whereas in Sri Lanka, it has been denied. Power is not shared among the different levels, which was demanded by the one of the group Tamils. Now the third one, the power shared among different social groups. If we look towards Belgium, the community government is the best example. If we look towards India, we will find there a reserved constituency for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, so that the power gets shared among these depressed classes. And the last one, the power shared among different political parties, pressure groups, and the movement. Political parties, they share the powers in the form of uh, coalition government, which is very evident in India since 1990s. Whereas even sometimes they form the alliances. Whereas the pressure group, the business class, the students class, the worker class, they form the pressure groups, and through their representative in the government, they stake claim, they share the powers in the government. Similarly, the movement, the Lok Pal movement was one of the famous example. In this Lok Pal movement, it forced the government to take care of their interest. It became this um, movement was started by Anna Hazare, and it forced the parliament to take interest in the people's demand. Thank you.